Ripple just landed approval to operate across all 30 countries in the European Economic Area. So, why did the price of XRP barely move when the announcement hit? That gap between how big the news sounds and how small the reaction actually is tells you more about what's really happening than any headline will. Right now, Ripple is quietly winning. New regulatory approvals, new banking partnerships, new payment corridors going live across 3 continents in the same month. And XRP, the token most of you are actually holding, keeps trading like none of it happened. That contradiction is not an accident, and once you understand why it's happening, you'll stop being confused every time a huge Ripple headline drops and the chart barely flinches. I'm Alina, and around here we talk Ripple, XRP, and crypto wealth. Go ahead and like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, because what I'm about to walk you through is documented, current, and the kind of information most people are missing entirely. Before we go further, know that this is not financial advice. It's for educational and entertainment purposes only. Always do your own research. Drop in the comments and tell me, have you noticed this pattern yourself? Big Ripple news, flat or falling price? Or did today's video connect dots you hadn't connected before? Let's restate the tension in plain terms. Ripple, the company, is winning constantly. XRP, the asset, is mostly a spectator. Here's the thing that makes this click for me. Think about a relay race where one runner does all the conditioning, all the training, all the early laps to build speed, and then hands the baton off right before the finish line to a teammate who actually crosses it. The first runner did the real work. But when people watch the replay, all they remember is who was holding the baton at the end. That's what's happening between Ripple's infrastructure and XRP, the token. Ripple builds the track, trains for years, and then increasingly hands the final leg, the actual settlement, to a different runner entirely. That other runner has a name. It's RLUSD, Ripple's dollar-pegged stablecoin. And once you see this pattern, you'll start noticing it in literally every recent Ripple announcement. Earlier this month, Ripple settled a tokenized treasury fund alongside JP Morgan, a genuinely historic moment for institutional crypto adoption. But look closely at what actually moved the money. The cash leg of that settlement ran on RLUSD, not XRP. XRP showed up only as the tiny network fee every transaction on the ledger pays, fractions of a cent on a trade moving enormous sums. The same week, Ripple partnered with SBI Group to launch RLUSD in Japan, following formal approval from Japan's Financial Services Agency. Through that partnership, RLUSD became accessible to institutional and retail users on the VC Trade platform, serving as a bridge for payments, tokenization, and collateral management. Again, the headline says Ripple. The settlement runs on the stablecoin. So let's talk about what's still true for XRP, because this isn't a story about the token being worthless. It's a story about understanding exactly what role it plays. Yes, Ripple facilitates real-time blockchain-based payments between Thailand and Japan. JPY, the Japanese yen, converts into XRP, and XRP converts into THB, the Thai baht, on the other side. That corridor is documented, and it's a clear example of XRP actually doing bridge asset work, not just sitting in the background collecting fees, right? This matters because it shows the bridge asset use case for XRP isn't dead. It's just being used selectively in specific corridors, while RLUSD increasingly handles the larger institutional settlements where price stability matters more than speed. Here's where I want to bring in something Ripple's own CEO has said directly, because it explains the entire strategy in one sentence. Brad Garlinghouse has said long-term crypto value comes from utility, not financial engineering. Sit with that, because it's not just a soundbite, it's a roadmap. Ripple isn't optimizing for XRP's price chart. Ripple is optimizing for infrastructure that financial institutions can actually trust and actually use, even if that means building a separate, more stable asset to carry the heaviest institutional weight. That's not abandoning XRP. That's protecting the entire ecosystem XRP lives inside of, because institutions will never settle billions of dollars in an asset that can swing 10% in a day. Now let's talk about the regulatory side, because this is where things get genuinely significant. Ripple is being described as trusted by institutions shaping MiCA compliance, the European Union's sweeping framework for how digital assets are allowed to operate across an entire continent. Ripple recently received its crypto asset service provider license out of Luxembourg, enabling regulated crypto asset services across all 30 countries of the European Economic Area, combined with its existing electronic money institution license. That's full MiCA compliance, the kind of regulatory clearance that takes years to earn and instantly determines whether banks across dozens of countries are even legally allowed to integrate your infrastructure. Ripple arrived to this milestone after competitors like Circle and Coinbase, but arriving complete and compliant with both pieces in place still matters enormously for long-term positioning. Let me give you a picture that makes the bigger trend click. Tokenization is reaching production scale. The DTCC, the institution that quietly clears the vast majority of securities transactions in the United States, alongside the New York Stock Exchange and a firm called Securitize, are rolling out tokenized real-world assets this year. That's the official arrival of blockchain technology inside regulated financial markets, the markets moving trillions of dollars daily. And Securitize is integrating with the XRP ledger directly. So even as RLUSD captures more of the settlement spotlight, the ledger itself, the actual infrastructure XRP secures and fuels, keeps getting wired into the largest financial plumbing in the world. There's more happening simultaneously. Ripple took a strategic stake in African payments company Flutterwave at a $3.2 billion valuation, embedding RLUSD and XRP ledger technology into payment rails spanning 34 African markets. The cross-chain platform Squid integrated RLUSD as well, letting it move freely across more than 20 blockchain ecosystems through a single transaction. In Latin America, Ripple expanded its partnership with Bitso around a regulated peso-backed stablecoin issued directly on the XRP ledger. And just recently, Ripple opened the door for AI agents to pay using both XRP and RLUSD through something called the X402 protocol, a small but telling signal about where machine-to-machine payments may be headed next. I want to pause here and give you my honest take because some of you will disagree, and that's fine. I don't think XRP holders should panic that RLUSD is doing more of the heavy lifting. I think you should recognize what kind of asset you're actually holding. XRP secures the ledger, pays the fees, and remains the bridge asset in specific corridors where speed matters more than stability. It also benefits from regulatory clarity that very few major tokens have. After the SEC case resolved and XRP was treated as a digital commodity, spot XRP ETFs launched and have already gathered over $1 billion in inflows, with major institutions among the holders. That's real demand, measurable and ongoing, even while RLUSD absorbs more of the settlement narrative. Here's the part that quietly matters most for your own financial picture, regardless of which asset Ripple leans on next. If you've been holding XRP through the boring sideways months, and the moment finally comes where this asset reprices in a meaningful way, the second you cash out in a regular taxable account, a large chunk of what you waited years for gets handed straight to the tax system. That's exactly why I personally hold a portion of my own digital assets inside a self-directed retirement account through iTrust Capital. It lets you hold XRP inside a tax-advantaged structure, so the growth you've been patient for actually stays yours instead of getting split with the IRS the moment you take profit. Now, for where price stands. XRP is trading around the $1 mark, down modestly over the past week, despite this wave of genuinely strong fundamental news, sitting below its 50, 100, and 200-day moving averages. That disconnect between strong fundamentals and weak price action is exactly the relay race pattern we talked about. I'm not promising you a number, and anyone who does is selling you certainty that doesn't exist. What I'm showing you is that the next real catalyst for XRP price likely isn't another partnership headline. It's broader adoption of the ledger itself, continued ETF inflows, and potential regulatory codification through legislation that could unlock further institutional demand. So here's how I'd sum up where we actually are. Slowly, then all at once. It may feel slow watching headline after headline land without the price responding, but global crypto regulation is happening simultaneously across multiple continents right now. When the XRP effect finally becomes visible, it tends to become visible all at once, the way a relay race looks slow lap after lap, right up until the final sprint. So drop in the comments and tell me honestly, does this change how you think about what you're actually holding, the token or the company behind it? Or were you already seeing this pattern? Like the video, if it gave you clarity, nobody else is laying out this directly. Subscribe if you haven't already, and send this to someone still confused about why good news keeps landing without moving the price. And as always, I want you to stay wise, stay wealthy, and I'll see you in the next video.